All right, so now that we've helped Lev and Yara, well, that was kind of an interesting detour, but whatever. We're back to the plot.
So
Kind of.
let's do a recap here. Abby, in a fit of rage, has been waving the flag of the Fireflies, a bunch of terrible people, trying to swear vengeance for strictly pretty much just the murder of her father, who himself was a pretty terrible hypocrite, who clearly wasn't willing to actually take out his own daughter if he had to take out Joel, a morally questionable character, all for the sake of banding with the WLF, another bout of terrible people, while herself being a terrible person who we're supposed to like because, oh, look at how she went out of her way to help these two people from the Seraphites.
That's kind of one of the problems of this game. It's filled with nothing but terrible people, and while that can be made into an interesting story, this isn't one of them.
Okay.
But Wibbs, what about
this is not a good example.
But Wibbs, Abby has just saved 2 scars. Even though they were.
So what? It's like that quote in Doctor Who Boomtown, where the Doctor says, "So you saved one person, but so what? You still killed someone and used her skin and killed many other people."
Pretty much.
You know something's bad when you're being outdone by a show about an alien who travels around time and space in a blue box.
Might as well make a good comparison to this. There have been some MCU villains who, while very dastardly, have actually had people legit like them. I think one of the best examples is the villain of Black Panther, Killmonger.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Like, Killmonger is such a good villain that in a lot of other stories, he would have been considered the hero. Now, why is that? Despite the fact that the first time we see Killmonger, when he's not a kid, when we see him doing his thing, we see him doing pretty villainous stuff. Mm-hmm. So of course the first thing you assume is that he's a bad guy. Even more so when he takes down T'Challa. Yeah. However,
then we show the backstory that explains where he's coming from. Again, it's the same tactic that Hino does with his villains. Like you introduce him as a bad person, but then suddenly a big backstory that makes you rethink the character. Like it's a very common way of writing villains that a lot of writers like to use. Go ahead.
So you may be thinking, oh, but that's what they do with Abby here. Yeah, here's part of the problem. First off, Black Panther still acknowledged the fact that Killmonger, despite his redeeming qualities, was still the bad guy. Whereas this game tries to paint Abby as the new good guy.
That's the thing. Okay. The idea, supposedly, Jove, is that it's not so much in terms of good guys and bad guys, it's more so the fact that each of them is the hero of their own personal story, Like, there's no actual right and wrong. I'm guessing that's what Neil is going for.
If that's what he was going for, then he failed. Because, okay, here's the thing. The story, at least in its execution, tries to make Abby look like the better person than Ellie in the long run of things, especially by the end.
That's a big problem.
If that was not the if that was not the intent, then I gotta know what the hell happened, but that's unfortunately what happens.
That's a big problem. The intent was that. The problem is that Neil is clearly... You have to be unbiased when you're writing your characters for that to work. And Neil was clearly played favorites with Abby, clearly. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And there in turn lies a problem here. What the story should have gone was for the whole, nobody is truly the good guy format thing, but instead it clearly has a shift in paradigm towards Abby here. Again, comparing this to Black Panther as well.
Fuck it, let's run.
Pulling at me, are you?
Well, that's the thing, Drebs, they spotted me. And since I was almost done, I was almost home free, might as well run the rest of the way. You notice there's a stalker coming towards me, but I'm gonna jump, and there we go.
Let's just pray that they can't jump. Oh dear.
There we go. Carry on, Jova.
Yeah, again, going back to comparing Abby to Killmonger here. Okay, ignoring the fact that Killmonger was the villain, he was still arguably a better person than Abby, if only because his motivations were, they were kind of selfish and about a psychosis. But let's not forget that at the end of the day, despite the fact that he was going the wrong way about it, his plan was to try and, end oppression to blacks all across the world here and there. Again, the way he went about it is what made him the villain, but it didn't change the fact that he did have noble intentions. The problem was, again, how he went about doing it. And as for the whole, him having to take down T'Challa thing, that was also a showing of the signs that the traditions of Wakanda were, ironically, a bit outdated.
The idea is that despite him being a bad guy, he still had good points.
Yeah, and not only that, but he had points against how Wakanda handled things. Like, let's be honest, a lot of stuff could have been averted if T'Challa's father had taken in Killmonger after he, killed his father, instead of just going, let the boy fend for himself. Like, it showed just as much that there was truly a screw-up on Wakanda's side as much as it was Killmonger's.
Speaking of...
I don't know, Abby. You say the current's tough, but you didn't seem to have any difficulty swimming through it. Go ahead, Dwibs.
I know, that's right.
Though it'll be a quick one. Speaking of Ryan Coogler, have you seen... I know Pedro has, but have you seen Creed, Jover?
I have.
No, I've not gotten around to it, but I've heard good things about it.
It's basically passing of the torch movie for the Rocky series, where Sly passes the torch to Michael B. Jordan, aka Adonis Creed, the son of Apollo Creed. So it's one of those pass the torch type of movies, Where from now on, it's no longer going to be called Rocky; it's going to be called Creed. And Michael B. Jordan will be the protagonist from this point on.
I've heard loads of people like it. What were your thoughts on it?
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot.
Same. That's why it's going to be a bit lacking for Black Panther 2 because a Ryan Coogler movie without Michael B. Jordan, because Michael B. Jordan is his go-to actor. So.
And unless he's like a flashback or something, you can't use him.
Yeah, actually, just for the purpose of having him there, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan writes a flashback scene with Killmonger, just so Michael can be in there,
Or who knows? Maybe they'll have T'Challa meet Killmonger in one of those afterlife segment things.
Remember, Dwebs, Christopher Nolan made Michael Caine one of the voices you hear on the telecommunicator, just so he has an excuse to put Michael Caine in the movie.
In Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's kind of a tradition of sorts. Kind of like how Tim Burton likes shoving Johnny Depp in everything.
Honestly,
except big eyes.
True.
Honestly, I won't be surprised if Ryan Coogler finds some way to get Michael B. Jordan in Black Panther 2. Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll play Killmonger's twin brother.
Most likely a flashback scene.
Either that or something in the afterlife. But yeah, long story short, Killmonger, a villain with good charisma, but still regarded as a villain. Abby, someone who we're apparently not supposed to see as a card-cut villain, but unfortunately comes off as one. Again, she still has that mark against her, the fact that she literally killed Joel without hesitation, despite him saving her life here and there.
Yeah, I also brought that up.
Maybe question the circumstances of stuff. And not only that, she acts like a hypocrite. Like, she never, ever acknowledges the fact that she robbed Ellie of her father figure.
There's also another problem that Neil created because, in trying to make Abby likable, he made the unfortunate decision of making Ellie, a character who is very much loved, deliberately look like a terrible person. And, obviously that doesn't sit right with the people who like the first game.
Yeah, and it's not earned either.
It's not earned. Like I said, I would be okay with a story where Ellie's descent into madness, if that was what the story committed itself to. But no, we have to now spread ourselves over this new whole cast of characters. But no, it's exactly that, Joe. It's not a good comparison, because, like you said, Abby's still. They're trying to portray Abby as a good guy, but Killmonger, despite having his tragic backstory that makes us empathize with his actions, not sympathize, empathize. There's the difference. It's still, at the end of the day, Killmonger is still the bad guy, like you said. It's interesting you mentioned that, because if they wanted to do this, they should have done something like akin to the villain of the Leighton anime. Sure, I can vouch for what I'm saying. In the Leighton anime, they do the same thing. that Killmonger does, the tragic backstory that all these. But without spoiling anything, the interesting thing is that by the end of the story, when you've learned the entire context, I can't speak for Shiroi, but by the end of it, I can't even bring myself to call that guy a villain, an antagonist at best, because it's really one of those cases where, let's just say, the villain had the best of intentions, and tried to do something.
The very worst way of going about it,
it's one of that's the thing, Shiro. It's not even the worst way of going about it, Shiro. It's more so the fact that he was willing to break his moral code just a bit for the sake of a greater good.
He was desperate, essentially.
And then when he realizes that it was all for naught, it just. He literally falls to the floor in desperation, and that's what makes it all the more tragic. And it's just if they wanted to make Abby like that,
a broken man.
If they wanted to make Abby likable, they could have gone for something like that, where she thinks she's doing the right thing, but then she finds out that while her intentions
wasn't the best person.
Yeah, that could have been. Yeah, there you go. That's a good way that you could have gone about it. Maybe they could have actually had to a point where, turns out my father was not the best person, the best avenger, but they have her be there listening to the whole thing, so she completely agrees with her father's decision, so she's just as shitty as he is.
The thing is, they could have done it with both. That's something they could have done with both Abby and Ellie, so when they meet each other at the end, they kind of like, oh shit, and then where do we go from here, instead of just what I assume is going to happen at the end.
Listen to us. Workshopping a better ending than the game will actually give us. But yeah, okay. Honestly, the thing about Abby is, there were a lot of things that needed to be done. First of all, maybe if Abby's revenge was for, the Fireflies as a whole, this would have at least been more understandable. But no, it's strictly just for her dad. And don't get me wrong, I get it. The whole father-daughter bond thing, okay? Let's assume that she really did love him like you would love a family member. That's fine. Problem is, by default, because she and her father did not have nearly as much development as Ellie and Joel did, Ellie and Joel literally had an entire first game for us to get acquainted with them, to the point where some people could understand Joel's actions. Again, let's not forget the fact that the Fireflies were pretty crappy people themselves. The fact that, at best, we get a fraction of a game was already signs that it was going to be hard for us to side with Abby. I'm not saying it was impossible, but, okay.
It's all about... It's all about the fact that the execution was the worst possible ever. It boils down to that. Yeah. The concepts themselves are not the problem. It's more so the way they were executed, because Kubrick movies do this all the time, of making you not necessarily side with anybody in particular. Just you're just watching what happens and take your own conclusions, and the movie never at any point takes a side for you. Whereas in this game, no, the game literally tells you which side you're supposed to take.
Again, you could say maybe there's not a bias, except last I checked, there's not a flashback for everyone who Abby killed. Okay, yes, and before anyone says, Joel, don't worry, Abby's going to have her own bouts of fun little killing sections, and she doesn't get nearly as called out by the game for it as Ellie does.
No.
Are we going to see any flashbacks of dogs she kills?
No, she doesn't kill... No, sure. Abby doesn't kill dogs. I mean, why would...
She's too pure for that.
Exactly.
Which is...
Only that bitch Ellie kills dogs, Shiroi. Don't you know?
Which is ironic, because there's that one segment that you would have so thought that they would have had dogs going after Abby, but surprisingly they don't.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, Jova. It's like I've said, there's the bias. There should not. The only way this kind of story can work is if the writer puts any kind of bias aside and makes sure he takes no moral stance on anything. But Neil decided to do that, and that's what destroys the story.
I mean, heck, it's not just the narrative, but also in the gameplay. We've talked about how, you're constantly shamed for killing certain mooks as Ellie with, people calling out the names of them, or when you kill a dog, as though when you're absolutely forced to. Abby doesn't have that during her gameplay segments, because she's better than that, and when she does it, it's because it's only for the most noble of reasons.
Exactly.
Gag me. Like, again...
Oh boy, the Washington Transit Authority.
Yeah, this boat.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, we have to, because of the water, we have to cross this boat and get to the top.
I guess there must have been a gas or spore leak on this boat for there to be infected on here.
Well, supposedly it's people who were passengers, and they got stranded here. I don't know.
I'm just wondering where the spores came from, since, they're kind of stranded at water, but... whatever.
Maybe it wasn't one of those cases. Maybe what happened was somebody, like some kind of infected, managed to get in here and and made other infected. I don't know.
Again, we don't really know how long a lot of these places have been left for. In the first game, we had more of an idea because the event was kind of,
Well, actually, we didn't.
Just happened.
It's not so much that we did have an idea. It's more so the fact that the game did a much better. That the first game did a much better job of staying focused on its story and not hanging and not dragging, and therefore making us drawing our attention to other things. Because you can get to the first game and point that problem at the first game as well. But the reason nobody complains about it in the first game is because the game does its job and distracts us from any possible flaws that it might have.
Though not only that, but in the first game, you could say that there was more of an attention to detail, where, okay, a lot of cases when you came across infected, it was in places that always made sense in the first game. Whereas here, it seems like they thought first of, all these cool different scenarios before thinking about how to make it make sense.
AKA, exactly how David Cage must have made Beyond Two Souls. Let's not think of an actual story. Let's think of different wild scenarios I can put Jodie in, and just use the non-chronology as a way to force feed into this game, into the game.
Now, don't get me wrong. The concept of a ghost ship section where it's zombies on a ship, although Resident Evil did it better, is pretty cool. But how do you make it make sense? Like
907701. Okay.
Yeah. Again, this is a cool concept, but it doesn't feel like they put as much thought into how to make it make sense.
Okay, this is going to be weird. Go ahead and finish, Jeff. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
Again, I know it may seem nitpicky, but I don't know. It feels like such a step down from the first game, which definitely went out of its way to pay such high attention to detail. And mind you, this is such a heavily story-based game that we can't help but point out when certain gameplay segments really clash.
Like I said, Joe, but the reason you're quote-unquote nitpicking is because the game is not doing its job of actually engaging you, and therefore you're just kind of bored and your attention is drawn somewhere else.
Yeah, this this cupboard right next to me is amazing.
Nice of you. Nice of. Okay. What was I? Yeah. This is gonna be weird coming from me, but I actually did find a flaw in the accessibility settings of this game, because when you're reading the notes, there's and you press the square button to show the in-game font to read instead of actually having to read the handwriting of the actual note. The black background that shows up behind the text is not as black as the background behind the subtitles, and I feel like it should be just as black because it's black, but it's that kind of transparent black. If you know what I mean. I feel like it should.
Yeah, which can actually be a problem.
Yeah, so I feel like considering this game is such a fantastic in terms of accessibility settings, you'd think they would put that there as well, but I guess even in that aspect they didn't entirely think things through.
Huh.
I mean, the background might seem dark to most, but speaking as somebody who has a nystagmus, background images are very easily distracting, and it does take away from the text. So if they're going to make, Pedro's right, if they're going to make the background for the subtitles, a solid background, they should do the same for the letters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's fine, actually. Go ahead.
I was going to say, back onto a gameplay note.
I guess, hold on, Joe, real quick. Well, Shira, I guess maybe you can make an argument that unlike the subtitles, which are only there for as long as the line of dialogue is, you can actually take your time to read all of that, maybe? Maybe it's not as bad?
You can, but for some people, that might still be a big issue.
Okay. Go ahead, Jova.
That's what I was going to say. Of all the places for there to be shamblers, shouldn't on a boat be one of the most common place for shamblers to be, since they're more water-based?
Well, we're kind of in the middle of the sea, so maybe... And it's raining, so...
Oh, no. That's my point, though. We surprisingly have not come across any
Oh,
shamblers.
there's actually one... Oh, I thought you were saying that there wasn't... There's actually a shambler at the end of this section, Jova. In fact, I think we're about to meet him in a couple moments, actually.
Okay, then.
So if that actually is a thing here, we just haven't. Excuse me, we just haven't found him yet.
Again, kind of a missed opportunity that we didn't get to see how more environmental changes would bring more mutations to the cordyceps, but that's unfortunately a side effect of the cordyceps not really being as big a focus in this game as they were in the first game. I mean, it just feels weird for the zombies to be a background element in, well, a zombie story.
That's exactly the problem. You could have easily, with a quick rewrite, replace all the characters in this game for original characters and replace the infected with normal zombies, and the plot would function exactly the same. This thing has no reason to be a Last of Us game.
Like how there's not even that much focus on, the cure that Ellie could have provided, like.
That's why I said.
I guess most people have given up on that, so yeah.
That's why I said a quick rewrite. With a quick rewrite, you could easily rewrite all the small little times that this game actually does bother to tie into the first game. You just with just a quick rewrite, you could easily turn this into an original IP.
And Naughty Dog, if you didn't want to do that, again, you could have just had this been with a whole cast of original characters, So at least they're on equal footing here. Like, this is kind of a similar problem to Apollo Justice when you compared Phoenix to Apollo. Phoenix had free games
for
character development.
Right there in the background, on the left. Hold on, I don't know if you noticed it. Right there. You should be able to see it right there.
Yeah, there's a shambler.
There you go. Fortunately, I don't get detected because I managed to escape without alerting him, so we'll be fine. Come on, you asshole.
Shame you can't pull a Batman and literally grab him for the glass.
Nah, sadly no. If this was Metal Gear Solid 5, I could, but alas.
So, some of these people are runners, so that implies that they were here mainly recently. Like, I forget, what's the turning point from runner to, we
don't know.
Clicker? Is it like a
they tell us vaguely in the first game how this works, but they never specify the exact time it takes to go from a runner to a clicker. My guess is the developers, even in the first game, intentionally made it vague so that they have they have excuses to just place enemies as the level designers best see fit. Just so they're not just so that they don't restrict the level designers in how they approach things. Maybe.
I wonder if the wiki has something on this. I'll check.
I don't know if it's maybe told to us in some kind of official guide or something, but the games themselves don't actually specify how long it goes from runner to clicker, or from clicker to a shambler or a bloater. And definitely don't mention how long it takes to become whatever the hell the big boss of this game is.
Oh, we'll get to that soon enough.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Well, it's during day 2, but no, we still have to go for an entire trip in day 2 before we get to... It's at the end of day 2, basically, that we do that.
Okay, I found some source from the wiki here, so let's see. Runners are people who are recently turned into infected, yada yada yada. Stalkers are people who have been infected from somewhere between 2 weeks to a year. Clickers are people who have been infected for at least 1 year. Bloaters have been infected for several years. Same with the shambler.
Okay, then. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, as for Pedro, as for
notice how they still say several ears when it comes to the bloaters and shamblers. Again, they intentionally keep it vague, just to make sure the level designers are all, have a bit of leniency in where they put the infected and what kind of infected they put on the level. But go ahead.
As for the special one in mind, that one's apparently after 20 years of infection.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that when we get to that.
I'm okay with a writer intentionally making certain bits of certain details intentionally vague just for the purpose of being able to help the gameplay. Because that's fair enough. Because if you go because when details are hampering the gameplay, yeah, I'm okay with toning back on that. Like, it's okay. At the end of the day, this is still a video game, and you should make some concessions.
Yeah.
There you go. I got the full flamethrower, but I'm gonna save it for that boss that me and Joe have been hyping up.
I gotta say, that flamethrower really comes in handy in a game like this, considering how weak cordyceps are to fire.
Well, yeah, Jova, and of course it's Abby who has the flamethrower. Although, to be fair, Joel also had a flamethrower in the first game, to be fair.
Yeah. Don't you see? Abby's now the new playable Joel. Stronger than Ellie.
Well, Jova,
strong.
Well, Joel, remember, day 2 of her campaign also tries to make her the new Joel story-wise, as we. So yeah, kind of.
Yeah. How about that?
Anyway, another coin. Let's see what this coin is. Utah.
Oh, Utah.
Sorry, Jova, but I wasn't able to find the New York coin.
Oh well.
I don't really care enough to find all the collectibles in Abby's campaign. The trading cards are cool, but these coins, to be honest, I just find them pretty boring.
Oh, I guess that's it for the ghost ship.
Like you had the collectibles trading cards of the superheroes is actually a pretty cool collectible that is also is actually pretty fun to read. The coins, though, yay Utah, yay New York, yay whatever. Who cares? It's the United States. I could just watch Wacko's United States from Animaniacs.
Okay. I do kind of get the appeal. The appeal is like, well, on the tails side of a coin, there are different pictures for each different state here, Hence, the cool thing about coin collecting. That said, though, something about doing it virtually doesn't feel as fun as doing it in real life.
Not just that, it's one of those things where non-Americans will not find it as appealing. But I cannot understand, because in Europe it's the same thing, where even though most European countries use the euro, every country has its own different back of the coin.
Yep.
So there's also quite a lot of people who collect different European coins with the different backs for each country.
There's also a difference between the UK pound and the Scottish pound. Which...
Well, there you go then. So I can understand what the appeal is. It's just one of those cases where, since I'm not American, it's just one of those cases where for me it's just like I don't know. It's not personally relatable to me. So this kind of falls flat for me personally, but at least for Americans it will be good.
Mm-hmm.
God.
This is all.
This game drags. This game drags so much.
That's the thing. Whereas Ellie's stuff, it was clearly padded out. Whereas Abby, they try to pack as much as they can to the point where it gets just a little bit ridiculous that Abby did this all in one day.
It's the aquarium. That's all you need to know. And of course, Owen is not near to open the door, which means we need to basically get in the hard way. Good job. Thanks, Neil. And the game directors, I forgot their names.
But Neil disagrees and says that this game is not too drawn out. And
yeah, that's another thing that I don't think I've ever properly corrected you on, Dwebs. It is even though Bruce is not in this game, there are still 2 game directors. So technically, Neil only did the story directing like he did in the first game. He had 2 game directors to do the game directing for him.
I knew that.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying, because you were talking about how, this time Neil Druckmann is alone doing the shit. Well, no, he's not. He has actually 2 other guys helping him with the gameplay. So
sure. But in the case of what I just mentioned, he directly responded to a review on Twitter by saying, "This was a very good review, though I disagree that the game is too long."
Yeah, that's the thing. Even people who like this game
Did he
point
give a
out
reason
that
as to why he
it
thought? Did he give a reason as to why he disagreed?
As far as I'm aware, no, but I didn't read the full thread, so I'm not going to say.
Was that a reference to a positive? Was that a response to a positive review or to a negative review?
I don't actually know that.
Because I do remember
I haven't been reading the reviews. I've only been watching YouTube reviews because I don't care enough about this game to read a lot about it. So
Sure. Do you like? Are you familiar with girlfriend reviews from YouTube?
I've heard of them, but I haven't watched.
Basically, it's this girl who has this series of videos called "Shoot Your Boyfriend, Play Insert Game Here," because basically she's one of those backseat gamers, as she calls herself. That she just watches. Okay. So she buys a game just so that the boyfriend will play, and she can just sit back and watch while the boyfriend plays. You know. So she has this. For people that are like her, she has a series called "Should Your Boyfriend Play? Insert this game here."
That's an interesting and unique way to do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And she actually did make a video. Yes, phone. Thank you.
That was actually perfect timing.
And she actually did make a video on her own called "Understanding Last of Us Part 2," where she actually did enjoy the game and she is explaining why. And Neil immediately replied on Twitter. He's like, "This is a great review. Very insightful." Because when I saw it, I was like, of course it's insightful. It agrees with it likes your game, so therefore you're gonna. I don't see you putting out any of the negative reviews, do you, Neil?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even positive reviews have pointed out problems that everyone agrees on this game. Like, I have yet to see a review that. Well, okay, yeah, there are obviously some show reviews, but as far as the reviews I've seen and watched, just about all of them have mentioned the padding problem with this game. Like, even if you like stuff in this game, there's quite a lot of
this game didn't need to be
in between those segments.
Yeah, this game didn't need to be 25 hours. Like, for example, that boat scene we just went through, we didn't need that. We could have easily cut that sequence out and nothing would be lost. We could have just had the aquarium be the primary bit in this area. We didn't need the fucking boat. It was just a waste of our time.
Owen, are you here? Just setting up a creepy atmosphere.
See, the problem is, in Last of Us Part 2, when they do this, there's actually infected out in somewhere in these scary areas. Whereas in here, we know there's not any infected here because the aquarium is secure.
Yeah, like, so unless the infected somehow broke in with no sign to force entry, that wouldn't
entry. So
that wouldn't make any story sense for them to have somehow broke it in, unless they were very recent. But that also wouldn't make sense.
Okay.
Now, maybe you could say they're trying to go for the trope of nothing is scary and they're trying to fake you out. But again, it literally just takes thinking about the plot to realize why there wouldn't be anything in here. I mean, ooh, it looks spooky until you think about it.
Alright, let's continue exploring because God forbid this game just get to the freaking point. Oh, look at that. That's why Owen didn't open the door for us. He's somewhere in the boat. For some reason. So yeah, guys, time to find out why exactly Owen killed Danny to save a Scar. I mean, why would he do that? That's just like Abby said. That's weird. Let me talk to him, figure it out. That must be some kind of mistake.
Mind you, Abby's been doing all this just to talk to Owen about.
Let me guess.
Mind you.
The Scar was his sister or his mom or his brother.
No, Debs. That's the thing, Debs. I can kind of understand Owen's reasoning, but at the same time, like Jova said, it just boils down to the fact that he doesn't have a spine.
Let me guess, is Abby's kind-hearted nature rubbing off on him?
No. It's you can make that. You can kind of make that argument, actually. let's. We're literally about to see it, so tell me what you think.
It depends. It depends what you mean by rubbing off.
You'll see.
Wait.
You fucking asshole!
Phrasing.
Yes, by all means, don't get in there. Just take your time.
She literally fought her way through an army of cordyceps and seraphites to get to you.
He's making her work for it, shall we say?
To be fair, every day in this world is a struggle.
Don't get me wrong, I hate Abby, but Owen is really, really not that well in the right here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's listen to this.
Danny's dead.
I told you not to mention him.
You want to tell me what happened?
You assume something happened.
Well, something did happen. He killed the fellow WLF, Shiro, so clearly something happened.
Well, you whacked him on the head.
Instead, he turns to me.
Oh.
And he's old. I'm tired.
So he gave you the puppy dog eyes routine.
Because he's an old codger.
You know,
As
Avatar the
as
Last
Well, that's
Airbender-
kind of depressing.
As in ready to die.
Yeah, we kind of figured.
Kill a lot of scars. And,
But seeing that this one was a pensioner, I kind of feel
ready
bad
to
about it.
die.
Okay, while it is not entirely successful, I can at the very least understand what I'm understanding in Owen's case, because Owen only joined the WLF because of Abby, and as we've seen it for the flashbacks, he's never really been on board with this entire, let's train at the WLF to get revenge thing, So Owen has always been kind of, he's just kind of been doing what Abby, he's just been going after Abby. So I can understand. It's still not successful. It's still not exactly entirely earned, but there is at the very least some kind of a foundation here.
I can fix this.
Unlike Abby.
Isaac.
I appreciate that. Here's the problem with the story, though. Remember how the story was going on about, all the scars are evil and all that? Wow, suddenly not all the scars are that evil now, are they? Despite the story trying to use that to justify stuff.
That's the thing. That's the thing. For Owen, it's not even a matter of evil or bad. It's more so the fact that he's, like he just said, he's just tired. He's just tired of fighting for a cause. He doesn't give a crap anymore.
Which does show that maybe things shouldn't be as black and white as they are, but no, the story will continue to paint the scars as a black and white villain despite that.
Got you there, Abby. It's a lead. Gotta see it through.
Pretty much.
Alright, Shiroi, by all means, explain to me how the hell does it make sense that this leads to a sex scene?
I don't find any of this a turn on personally.
It gets worse, you're right.
Like, I've got nothing. I've really got nothing.
Well, you kind of are. All of you are. So bad. He wants to go to Santa Barbara because apparently there's fireflies in it, supposedly.
I go the opposite
Rumor.
fucking direction.
I can't wait till you back out on that statement.
What?
You say fucking a lot, Abby.
That's because I'm.
Maybe that's what
That's
lights
because
the spark, shall we say?
that's because I'm edgy, Dwibs.
Oh boy, here we
So
go.
a pencil has more edge than you do.
Oh, here you go.
Go find the people who killed my family.
So he's actually calling her out.
I could torture them until they're crying,
And
Why are you
now-
attacking him, Abby? I get that you don't
Because
agree
he
with
was-
his point, but that doesn't.
And now, believe it or not,
Why?
now, Shiroi, Now, Sheree, what do you think's going to happen next now that he's called her out for what she did to Joel? Sex!
This is some
Oh
kind of
boy! Hey Pedro, do you remember the story of that one guy who beat the shit out of someone else and then they banged each other?
Exactly.
Why
It's
are
a-
you
that's a
even
common-
wearing a bra? You
That's
don't
a common
need one.
story.
Oh, God. That is some uncanny valley there. And
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Last of Us 2 Rumpy Pumpy Edition.
And this is the porn parody of The Last of Us.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it doesn't last very long.
Last of Us game.
So Shiroi, now that you've actually
Rainbow.
seen the source, what do you think?
Hey guys, who was The Last of Us 2 climax, eh?
And of course, going from a sex scene now brings us to this.
Well, actually, Joe, but to be fair, this actually is a part of the arc. Remember, like, we already had her... Remember, at the beginning of this day, we had her dream about her father's death. Now, she dreams about... Let's see...
Yeah, it's just... It's so silly to go from that to this, though.
It is. I agree. And now, for some reason, she's feeling guilty over leaving Yara and Lev to fend for themselves. Because I don't know why.
Contrived storytelling for the win.
Those are some very concerning dreams you're having.
Well, that's the thing, Shiroi. That's the thing, Shiroi. Remember, the first dream she had at the beginning of her campaign was of her father's death. Now... Again, this is what Neil is going for. You know, her killing Joel didn't give her inner peace. She's still having nightmares every night.
Pedro, I'm sorry. I know I should be concentrating on the story, but I just can't get over how we went from fighting to fucking in a second.
Debs, by all means, do. I'm not trying to
Okay.
say it. I agree with you. Trust me. I'm right there with you.
Okay. So regarding that scene, I'm just going to quote a quote from the book How Not to Write a Novel about writing a sex scene. Giving a reader a sex scene that is only half right is like giving her half of a kitten. It is not half as cute as a whole kitten. It is a bloody god-awful mess.
I want us to hear this.
No one ever give me half a kitten.
That's pretty much what
I don't know, Abby.
was.
I don't know why you're gonna help them, Abby.
Anyway.
You don't really have any reason to. But anyway, Shiroi.
That's not a point.
You
So
had
sure-
a question for me, Pedro?
Now that you've seen the source of the memes, what do you think?
I mean, these two have very unusual turn-ons, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, whatever their kinks are is their own business. but
Again. So we go from the whole Owen being insane to Owen calling out Abby for what she did to Ellie and
It's-
Joel to then Abby beating him up to
It's not
sex,
even-
like
It's
Like, she just attacked him, and then he's like, well, that's kinky, and just that happens. And
Oh god, you assaulted me after I
It's
try
like-
and make
that-
a point to you. It's so hot.
This is literally soap opera. This is
know.
how a sex scene
Dad.
usually starts in soap operas. Like, it starts in this incredibly contrived, awkward way. Go ahead, Joe.
except at least in soap operas the sex doesn't look awful. Seriously, the Moser Uncanny Valley, the faces look all sorts of wrong here and there, and by God, the anatomy doesn't work with how Owen's going to town on Abby here and there. Also, the format of the sex is preposterous to say the least.
Go ahead.
But guys, it's a character who we hate, making sex to another character who we might have liked if he weren't a spineless doofus. Not to like. You know, despite the fact that the sex looks awful, doesn't make any sense physically or mentally when you get down to it. Like, honest question, what did that sex scene add to anything? What facilitated that sex scene to happen?
Love triangle.
Oh, you know what? I think I got it, guys. The reason Mel hates Abby is because she knows that Abby is as bad an influence on Owen as possible, because apparently so much as being in the same boat cabin as Abby causes Owen to lose all thoughts of rationale.
Maybe this is what Legend of Korra needed. A sex scene between Mako and Korra.
This was immediately after, by the way, this poor guy was talking about how depressed he was, about how he was about to murder some poor people. This is
even though he's been murdering people left and right
by his own admission.
This guy was old, Wibbs. This guy was old.
Yeah. That's
It's like the whole child and dog thing, you know. Old person, child, or dog, anything in between. Now you can kill those. You see one of those three, suddenly it's a problem.
It's like okay, and like I said, just to finish my point, it's no. It's this thing where they're trying to do a parallel to the dreams that Allie had in her campaign. You know, Allie during the first night dreamed about that museum trip. In the second night, she dreamed about that whole bit where, you know, like Allie for the first time asked him about the whole thing, confronted him about it, and Joel once again denied the whole thing. And then we have the third dream, which was the dream about the actual point where she actually discovered the truth. So another dream, a parallel again, where in the first night we see that even after killing Joel, Abby's still not at peace. She's still having nightmares about his death, and now she's having a nightmare about. And I can understand the father nightmare, but you know what? I'll save it for the next part. But the point is, the second nightmare is bullcrap.
Well, that's actually what I was going to point out. Sure, maybe you could argue that Abby was still having dreams about her father, but after this point, no, it's no longer about the father, but it's about the twins.
Well,
so I guess
there is the third one, Joel. Remember the third one where she dreams.
Yes, I know, but the pattern, as you said, doesn't make any sense because her dreaming about the two kind of implies that she did get over her father's death now that she's killed Joel, but you know.
How about this? We'll expand. Yeah, we'll expand upon in the next part, everybody, since there's a gameplay section at the beginning.
This has been going on for way too long.
See ya.